Joe Emmett, thank you for a $5 super chat. Just starting to upgrade from an Emax RTF kit. Would you recommend staying analog, DJI, or walk snail? Joe, my pick right now would be DJI V2. That's the system I use the most, although I have access to all of the other systems. The main risk with buying DJI V2 today is the potential that at some point in the future, the Air unit and the Vista will not be available anymore. The goggles are a safe bet because the goggles are forwards compatible with the new Air unit, but the new Air unit is $300. The old one is $150, $160. That's a pretty big difference. So if you buy the V2 goggles today, then if at some point in the future the Vista and the Air unit go out of production, then you would be stuck buying the new Air unit, which isn't the end of the world, but is expensive. Between analog and DJI, I think that almost everybody who has tried DJI prefers it to analog, except that it's more expensive. If you can handle the cost, I think most people prefer it. The main exception to that would be racers who really, really need the low latency and of analog and consistent latency of analog, and also analog works better with timing systems. So I still think if I was shopping today and if I was getting into FPV, if I had all the money in the world and was willing to spend $300 a pop on the new O3 Air unit, I might wait for that. But that's not currently available outside of the Avata, okay? In some time, they say in the October timeframe, maybe that'll get pushed. I don't know, that the O3 Air unit will be available. The O3 Air unit, the people who are testing the Avata have demonstrated that it has superior range and penetration to the original Air unit and Vista. The main drawback there is the cost. The DJI system, the V2 system, comes in at, it's under $500 for the V2 goggles now. They've dropped the price on the goggles. And the Air unit and the Vista is something like $160 with a good camera. It's a pretty good deal. They're damn near indestructible and they have amazing performance. I feel like the risk that they will stop making them at some point in the future is worth the value proposition you get today. Now, why am I not recommending the walk snail system? The walk snail system is the same price as the DJI V2 system for the VTX and camera. It is more expensive for the goggles by over $100. And the durability of the walk snail VTX is nowhere near the DJI, and the performance of the walk snail VTX in terms of range, penetration, and image quality is nowhere near. The walk snail still doesn't do better on 1200 milliwatts than at 700. They still haven't figured out the issue with the amplifier or whatever it is, but when you crank the power on that thing, you don't get more range, and in some cases you get less range. So the walk snail, in my opinion, is only really usable at 700 milliwatts. Now, somebody out there is going to be like, what do you mean? I use it at 1200 milliwatts all the time. It's great. Maybe. But DJI just is always, it's just done, works. And the image quality and range is better. Walk snail could be better someday. And walk snail has some features that DJI doesn't have, like the full Betaflight OSD. Walk snail is responding to community requests in ways that DJI isn't. There are some things about walk snail that make people tolerate the fact that it has less range and penetration, and worse image quality than DJI. But personally, I think that the DJI is the one I would pick today, based on all of those things. Unless you're on the tightest of budgets, in which case go analog. Analog is fine. Is it as good as DJI? No. Is it as good as Walksnail? No. It's fine though. And if you want to spend $15 on a video transmitter and $100 on a set of goggles, only analog can do that for you. Thoughts on DJI listening to the community? Ooh, this will be a good one for the live stream clips channel. Does DJI listen to the community? Let's do a poll. Does DJI listen to the community? Yes or no? I'm going to put that poll up, and I'm going to let that poll run for about 5 minutes. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to give you my answer, but we're going to move on. Why recommend analog over HD0, Tom T? Yeah, where's HD0 in all that? So, analog versus HD0. Price. Analog is way cheap. HD0 is the same price as DJI, roughly. So, it's no competition there. Now, what about for racing? Why did I say that racers would go with analog over HD0? Especially because HD0 has gone out of their way to make their system compatible with racing timing systems. HD0 has made this ground station specifically for races that outputs both. HD0 is moving heaven and earth to make their system good for FPV pilots and especially good for racers. So why didn't I say, well, if you're a racer, you're clearly going to go HD0? The answer is the durability of the system. I don't think that the HD0 system is as durable as the analog system for racing. I know, I'm not going to name names because I'll let these people speak for themselves if they choose to. But I know some people who tried HD0 for racing were initially really impressed by the significantly better image quality, and HD0 does have better image quality than analog. If you think it doesn't, I disagree with you. I think I don't think you're really looking at it. I don't know. But then these people started crashing and blowing up video transmitters and were like, oh, I see. And then they were like, okay, forget it. And they went back to analog. So, especially because an HD0 VTX is going to be $100. And an analog VTX could be $20, $25. Maybe it's an expensive one and it's $50. So, and as far as HD0 for everybody else, between the durability and the range, if you're a hardcore racer, I think you're going to go for analog because it's a little more durable and less expensive than HD0. And if you're a cruiser or freestyle pilot, I think you're going to care more about the resolution and range and penetration of DJI than the latency advantage of HD0. That's my take. HD0 is in a tough spot. The one thing that HD0 definitively wins at, which is low latency and smooth jitter-free frame timing, mostly matters to racers who also need very, very good durability, where HD0 doesn't deliver compared to analog. So it's tough. If HD0 could come out with a 2.5 watt video transmitter that was able to have comparable range and penetration to DJI, that would be a different situation. Because right now we've got, like, look at the freaking Foxier Reaper 2.5 watt VTX. I've got one of those coming for review. If you're an analog pilot, would you take a 1,000 milliwatt HC0 that's given you, maybe it's given you 1 watt of range compared to analog? Maybe a little less depending on your breakup in your antennas. Or you could go with a 2.5 watt Foxier Reaper. And sure, it's only an analog signal, but yikes! Right? It's tough. Let's see here. Let's take a look at this poll. Does DJI listen to the community? End poll. Yeah, I know there were better ways to frame that, but that's the question that was asked, and that's what we're going to go with. Does DJI listen to the community? Yes, 23%. No, 76%. I'll give you my answer. My answer is that yes, DJI does listen to the community. Oh, but wait. DJI listens to the community. I know that they do because I've talked to people, and I don't talk to a huge number of people inside DJI. In fact, lately I don't talk to anybody at DJI. They don't talk to, they don't seem to talk to me right now. I don't know why. Maybe it's because well, anyway. I'm a terrible reviewer from a manufacturer's perspective. I would like to say that I have never missed a DJI deadline. I have always I've always hit their release dates. But I have a feeling that the relationship that we had was not as friendly as perhaps their marketing teams would prefer. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it's something. Maybe they just don't like my beard. But I've had enough conversations with people who are in contact with DJI that I know for a fact that they are aware of all of the things that people are saying about them. And despite the fact that FPV is a tiny, tiny community compared to their larger market, they are an enormous company. And there are lots of FPV pilots and FPV enthusiasts who work for DJI and who know everything we say about them and everything we want from them. So in that respect, DJI absolutely does listen to the community. They listen. But it's kind of like if your partner is saying, listen, I'm going to need you to go to the grocery store. I'm going to need you to pick up A, B, C, milk, eggs, bread. Are you listening to me? And I go, yeah, I'm listening. Doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to the grocery store later, though. DJI is listening. They don't necessarily act on the things that they're hearing, and that gives the impression that they're not listening. But the problem is that DJI is a gigantic company, and it's not like there's just one guy who goes, listen, FPV community wants Betaflight OSD. Make it happen. That doesn't exist. It's a huge company. Decision making is necessarily cumbersome. There are many, many stakeholders. And the kind of people who could snap their fingers and say, make it happen, they're high up enough that they are not really aware of FPV in the way that we want them to be. And so, if by do they listen, do you mean are they aware of what we want? Yes, they listen. If by do they listen, do you mean do they give us what we want? Yeah, not always. Oftentimes not. That's my take on it.